is facing after he rammed a U-Haul truck into security near the White House last night.
Yes, several nearby streets and hotels had to be put on lockdown as police arrested the driver. And Melanie Alvick is live this morning in Lafayette Square. And Melanie, we've since learned the identity of that driver.
That's right. Just a short time ago, U.S. Park Police spokesperson told me that the driver of that vehicle is 19-year-old Sai Varshith Kandula of Chesterfield, Missouri. We believe he only graduated high school just a year ago. And the most serious charge he's facing is to threaten to kill, kidnap, inflict harm on a president, vice president, or family member, speaking to what the investigators believe was his intent when he crashed. Here, you can see into the bollards where that dirt is. Perhaps that's where some of the fuel may have leaked out, because we see a lot of the sand that they would normally use to absorb that stuff. But we want to show you the video of the moments last night captured by someone who literally, he says, he just came through the park 20 seconds before the crash. He said he was on his way home from a run on the mall, saw the driver, tried to ram through the bollards once, then back up and try again, saying after they rammed it the second time, I decided it was time to get the hell out of there. Now, those of you familiar with this area know the Hay Adams Hotel overlooks Lafayette Park. Staff and guests were evacuated as a precaution. We also had reports that the St. Regis was also briefly on lockdown. There's always a concern about the potential for explosives whenever you have a large box truck like that crashing into federal property. U.S. Park Police, the FBI, and Secret Service investigators worked together on this. They sent in robots, tactical units, to open up the back of that truck and make sure it was safe. Then when it was declared safe, they were able to get their inspectors in and take a closer look at some of the items that were found inside. A Nazi flag was removed from the truck, along with a backpack. The contents included a cell phone, a charger, a roll of duct tape, and a notebook. The notebook from the video that we saw as we looked very, very closely at it appeared to have pages on it just filled with writing. Then investigators were taking photographs of that, and then they bagged and tagged everything for evidence in this case. No injuries to anybody involved in this crash. And we don't have any information at this point when Mr. Kandula will be in front of a judge. Ordinarily, that would happen later sometime this morning. We've been checking the docket so far, and it has not appeared, but we'll let you know as soon as we see something.
Hey, Mel, two things real quick. One, a question. Obviously, you detailed some of the contents that were found in the truck and the identity of the driver. Do we know any reason why he might have been in this area as to the proximity to the White House? And second of all, where you're standing right now, if he had gone through that barrier, is there another barrier still before you get to the White House fence?
As far as any other details in terms of what his intent or those sort of things, we really don't know. We don't know how long he was in the area. They only said he's from Chesterfield, but we don't know if that meant that he was here temporarily, the route he took, none of that. That's still to come. As far as other barricades, you can see back where the statue is, that fence perhaps not as strong as these bollards here, but you would have to then go past that fence or through some of the hedges as well. And then, of course, we have that very strong reinforced, extremely tall White House fence where you see people on the top. So to really be able to get all the way through here would have been a very tall order. But as you know, we can't take anything for granted here. And we're going to learn some details later as far as the planning, the intent, what exactly he wanted to do.
All right. Appreciate you keeping us posted this morning. Melanie Olmec outside the White House.
Okay, so y'all just heard that right there, and this is like a truly breaking story right here, and I actually just kind of found out about this when I was scrolling through on Instagram. I keep telling y'all, I found out a lot of stuff on Instagram, and then when I found out about it, I posted it up as a link onto my Twitter account, and I'm sure by now people have already started to respond to it. Now, this is a very interesting story right here. So this guy's name, like I said, is Sai Varshith Kandula. You can already tell by that name. Yeah, that's a foreign name if I've ever heard one. And when I look at this guy, I can clearly tell that he is foreign. And they say he's from Chesterfield, Missouri. So this guy isn't even from the area. And now, mind you, this happened in D.C. near the White House, might I add. I know exactly the location in the area in which he was trying to crash this U-Haul truck into. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and show y'all a picture of the scene. So you have this picture right here. So this is the U-Haul truck that he was driving right here. And this is the barrier he was trying to drive through. That barrier is hard to drive through because it's nothing but steel. He would have to probably drive with a damn Mack truck or an 18-wheel of some kind of U-Haul truck wouldn't have done it. And they said he backed up and then tried to drive through again and was not successful. But two things attracted me to this story immediately. One was his age. This guy is 19. What have I told y'all about these age ranges? A lot of these age ranges are between 18 and 22. Sure, you might have some that's going to be beyond 22, but a lot of the people that are committing these type of acts or trying to commit these domestic terroristic type of acts are in that age range of 18 to 22, which I call the college age range. Because, you know, when you think about the typical college age range, you think of your freshman year, you're 18. And by the time you graduate, you're like 22, maybe 23, if you did maybe an extra year. But I would say 18 to 22 is usually the typical range. At least it was for me. I went in 07. I was 18, graduated in 2011, and just turned 22 like 3 days before I graduated, which was May 7th, and my birthday was May 4th. So I thought that was very interesting too. He wasn't even from the area. So I don't know, did he drive all the way from Missouri to DC, or was he already staying in the area and just decided to do this? But the second part, and y'all probably heard it right there in the clip, is they said one of the items that they found inside of the truck was a Nazi flag. Now, recently, and that's what makes this so interesting, the most recent domestic terroristic act that you can say we've dealt with as far as an establishment goes was Mauricio Garcia down in Allen, Texas. Now, this guy, of course, clearly was not your typical white guy. If you want to give him the label of white Hispanic, go on, you know, so on and so forth. When I say typical white guy, I'm talking about your people like your Daniel Pennies. He wasn't that type of white guy who had Nazi tattoos and Nazi, you know, paraphernalia. And, you know, he basically had a lot of stuff going on with him. Then, of course, you had a video that I just recently did was about Jack Teixeira out of Boston, who basically, after he did what he did with leaking those Pentagon documents, it was revealed that he was trying to kickstart a race war. And Jack Teixeira, and I actually learned this from one of my subscribers, because I said that last name, can someone tell me what that last name is? Because that's definitely not your typical American last name. And someone said that's Portuguese. I actually heard that from multiple people. So there you have someone who was of Portuguese descent. Now you have this guy right here who was driving around trying to break through a barricade to the White House or near the White House. And one of the items they find in the back of the U-Haul truck is a Nazi flag, and he's not white. I just gave y'all 3 examples of 3 individuals. One who was a mass murderer, they took him out. One who tried to leak very important government documents. And this guy who tried to commit a terroristic act. All 3 of them had very strong, as far as I'm concerned, anti-black views. They all had intentions to commit harm. One actually was successful, unfortunately. One had intentions to want to commit harm, and this one tried to as well. But they all have something in common. 2 things. Of course, I just gave you one. They all had anti-black views. They basically just hated anything that, as far as, if you're carrying around a Nazi flag, that already tells me all I need to know about you. I don't care what your race is, as far as I'm concerned. But the other thing was the fact that all of these guys would not be deemed as your typical white male. Again, they can choose to quote unquote identify however they want. But on paper, or should I say, you know what? On paper, they probably do. Through DNA, I'll put it like that. They would not be seen as your typical white person. I keep telling people all the time, and I'm going to say it right here. You do not have to be white to be a white supremacist. I just gave you 3 examples. This is the second one that has happened in the month of May. The other one happened earlier in the year, but that stuff that just recently came out about him, that came out like last week. It's only May 23rd. We got a few more days left in this month to see if anything else just happens to pop off. I just thought that this was very, very interesting. Usually when it comes to a story like this, I will read from Heavy, because I'm actually looking at the Heavy article, the thumbnail for the Heavy article right there, but I'm not even going to play it, mainly because I got mainly what I needed from this audio. So that will probably just reiterate everything the audio just said. If the audio didn't mention anything about the Nazi flag, then I probably would have said it, because I was waiting to see if they mentioned it, because that's one thing that I had heard when I saw the video on Instagram, because Instagram has the actual raw video that the person recorded and on their page. Well, whoever posted it. But yeah, I'm telling you, a lot of these people out here who are not white carry some anti-black views. Now, you got to ask yourself one question. What the hell was you doing, driving around in this U-Haul truck that late at night and that early in the morning? And what was you doing with that Nazi flag? Time to look up his social media accounts and see what kind of groups he's a part of. Because if you're driving around with a Nazi flag like that, you have to be carrying some type of views. They said he was going there to inflict pain. He said he was on a mission, but they caught him. I don't know what the hell he was thinking, trying to ram a U-Haul truck through that barrier, though. If y'all have seen the barrier, if anyone's ever been in DC and seen that barrier, you know nothing is getting past that thing. At least not a vehicle anyway. In order for you to get past that barrier, you would have to literally just walk right through it. But he knew that if he just was just to simply walk through it, especially at that time of night, it would have looked very suspicious. And that place is very heavily secure. So I don't know what the hell he was thinking. But again, this goes back to my initial point, that you do not have to be a white person to be a white supremacist. I will say this, though, to end the video off, this guy does have a swivel of privilege on his side. And by that, I mean, this guy was trying to break through the barrier near federal property, and he didn't get popped, not even one time. That audio that y'all heard didn't say that they pulled out their guns and popped him, whether to take him out or to put him down to the point where, you know, they didn't want to kill him or anything like that. Unlike that black woman a couple years ago, if y'all remember, there was a black woman that had drove up on, I think, near the White House or something like that. And I believe she had her child in the car. They came out, their guns ablazing, and immediately took her out. And to my knowledge, she wasn't even trying to do what this guy was trying to do. That story is still kind of fuzzy to me, but it was nowhere near on this scale.